Penguin Random House presents The Man Who Saved India, Sardar Patel and His Idea of India by Hindol Sengupta. Read by D. Andrew. To my parents and Ishira. Introduction. The adjective Patelian. Outside the entrance to the house, I was greeted by a raggedy clothes line with holy clothes swaying listlessly on it, and a duster clenched between the teeth of a half-broken clip, which seemed to have given up the struggle for freedom. The house looked relatively young, or had been whitewashed to at least appear so. A filigreed veranda gave it an antique touch. Its modernity seemed unsure but determined. "Is this Sardar Patel's house?" I confirmed with the woman hunched over a mound of soaked clothes in the neighboring house. I had seen the sign and the photo on the other side of the house, next to the barred windows facing the main road. The road was not very broad. It could just about fit a car and maybe a rickshaw side by side. The entrance to the house where Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was born, I was told by a passerby, was from the backside. In the front of the house, where the sign in Gujarati marked it as Patel's birthplace, there was a photo of his naturally serious, even-door face. It is a cheery photo, though in blue sky and white, a bit like an enlarged passport image. There is a small concrete enclosure right in front of the sign. This houses a cement prop-up statuette of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the Mahatma, Patel's guru and political mentor. The narrow road separates Patel's house and the Gandhi statuette. When you approach the street where the unremarkable house stands, your eyes fall mainly on the Gandhi effigy. Even today, at his birthplace, Patel seems a bit of an afterthought. It was about 10:30 in the morning, and there was hardly anyone around except the usual friendly vagabond. Every Indian street has one man ever willing to walk with you to your destination. The one I met was helpful. "No one comes here much," he said. "That's why it is kept locked." To reach Patel's birthplace, I had left Ahmedabad shortly before breakfast and driven for little more than an hour on the sort of smooth roads that feature in Gujarat tourism advertisements starring Amitabh Bachchan. Nadiad is just 60 kilometers southeast of Ahmedabad. They say at one point it used to be the home of rope dancers en route from the bustling port of Cambay to Ahmedabad, which sent its textiles all the way to Europe in the Mughal age. There are 9 routes to Nadiad, and 9 out of 8, the city has 9 stepwells, 9 lakes, and 9 villages, now towns, located in and around it. It might be a wee bit superstitious about the number 9. It is here that Patel was born, the 4th child and 4th son of the former Jawaharlal and his wife Ladba. They were 5 brothers and 1 sister: Vittalbhai, Somabhai, Narsibhai, Vallabhbhai, Kashibhai, and Dahiba. They were Patidars, a community that many in India had never even heard of until the violent agitation for greater government lagasse, led by the Patidar Amanat Andolan Samiti and its so-called leader Hardik Patel, began. The Patidars, sometimes referred to as Patidar Patels, make up around 20% of Gujarat's population. The Patidars originally came from Punjab, and they were often skilled cultivators and good at rearing cattle. When they settled in the Kheda region of Gujarat, 6 areas were the most important: Nadiad, Vaso, Karamsad, Bhadran, Dharmaj, and Sojitra, and Patidars from these were considered to be superior to the rest. When the Patidar agitation broke out in 2015, what surprised most people was that this was widely considered a prosperous clan. That, American historian Howard Spodek has pointed out, was perhaps only partially true. Even at the time when Patel was born, the community was full of yeoman farmers holding small private plots under Ryotwari tenure, with enough land to taste comfort but not enough to enjoy luxury. Frequently, in addition to holding their own lands, they acted as headmen for villages or groups within villages. They were familiar with the significance and local power of government. They were characterized as extremely hard-working and blunt. Their desire for economic well-being linked with a willingness for adventure. In time, Patel would have the opportunity to understand and explore both these traits. What was once Mufassil in the time of Patel is now the 8th largest, if slightly unkempt, city in Gujarat, but a visitor to Nadiad would be hard-pressed to find many apparent signs of the city taking pride in its famous sun. The woman peered at me from a soapy darkness and reluctantly rinsed off the foam from her hands. She heaved up and with what sounded like a sigh emerged from the shadows. There was, I noticed, a key in her hand. To reach out and cross over to the locked gate outside Patel's house, the woman grunted past a broken drain and an empty cobalt-shade bottle of Kinley soda. For a moment, a face and oily bun were framed by the dripping white socks on the clothesline outside the main door. Absently, she adjusted the blue checkered boxes hanging to dry before she bent to open the main door. One needs to bend one's head to enter the tiny two-room house. There are some rooms upstairs, but they are not accessible to visitors. There are 2 rooms, the first opening into the next, so that they form what seems like a dark corridor. There are some relatively modern fittings in the house. A fan, old enough to be from the 1980s, stands in the first room as one enters, and on one side, grazing against each other, are 2 cupboards, a smaller wooden one and a taller metal almirah with a full-length mirror attached to the right door and pockmarked with rust. Squeezed in the dusty corner where the cupboards ended their writ was a wobbly cardboard cutout of Patel wearing his trademark dhoti kurta, loose-cut sleeveless jacket and neatly folded cotton shawl across his shoulders. He is not smiling. This is not unusual. There are only a few photographs of Patel smiling. One is a photo which goes viral on social media every time his birthday, 31st October, a date which he confessed to having randomly made up, comes around. I have to bluff when asked how old I am. He said about his invention of 31st October 1875 as his birthday, one of the few things that constantly amused him. The other is the photograph of Patel being received at the Begumpet airport in the princely state of Hyderabad in 1948. This is said to be the only time the Nizam, allegedly the richest man in the world at the time, ever stepped out of his palace to receive anyone. But we are getting ahead of the story. The uneven stone floors of the house where Patel was born are cool to the naked feet even on a hot summer's day. I tried to switch on the old bakelite switches to turn on the fan or the light, but neither worked. There are 2 other images of Patel in the house. A photo of him sitting on a chair dressed in all white and a painting of him draped in a brown shawl and carrying a red cloth-bound book. The overwhelming impression of these 2 rooms was darkness. The windows let in a silver of sunlight, but the cool inkiness seemed to swallow it. They were cleaner than I had imagined, though shabby and derelict with damaged borders and corners. A broken television set stands in one corner near a wall which has a coral and azure painting of Srinathji, the version of Lord Krishna worshipped by many Gujaratis. On another wall, there was a small portrait of a Jain monk. Was it Mahavir, the founder of the Jain faith? It was not clear. On the shelves hang dusty ornate maps of India, the kind that are peddled to promote a Kitsi nationalism, and some framed photos, one of a young couple looking like they decided to get dressed up during the honeymoon and have a photo taken at one of those studios in touristy places which have several printed curtains as backdrops. If you want the mountains, they can photograph you against mountains or the sea if you prefer. Only in this photograph, they are cradling a baby. The woman who let me in seemed hesitant initially about following me inside, but soon she decided that I didn't deserve time alone there. Who was this young couple? I asked. She shrugged and started to kick aside torn pieces of electricity bills littered on the floor. On one bit of cornice, an orange poster said SVPM, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Memorial. But in the photo,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?